Good morning, everyone. It's my great honor to extend a warm welcome to Professor Rajnish Kumar Mishra from the School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. We are truly privileged to have him with us for this insightful lecture series. Professor Mishra's profound scholarship in Sanskrit and Indic traditions, particularly in Buddhist philosophy and literary theories, makes this an invaluable learning opportunity for all of us. His expertise in thinkers such as Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Dharmakriti, and Shantarakshita will surely enrich our understanding of Buddhist epistemology, logic, and literary criticism. On behalf of faculty, students, and everyone present, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for taking this moment to share the insight with all of us here, and we are looking forward to your insightful discussion ahead. Welcome, and now my friend Vantishree will give the brief bio of sir.
Thank you, Dipen, and good morning, everyone. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome all of you to a series of enriching lectures by a truly esteemed scholar, Professor Rajnish Kumar Mishra from the School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Professor Mishra's academic journey is both exceptional and inspiring. He holds an MA in English, specializing in linguistics, from Patna University, 1992, followed by an MA in Linguistics with a focus on Sanskrit linguistics from JNU, 1994. His scholarly work continued with a Master of Philosophy, 1997, and a PhD in 2001, both from JNU. With his research exploring Buddhist philosophy, literary theory, and Sanskrit poetics, his PhD dissertation titled Saiva Philosophy and Literary Theory, a dissemination of Abhinavagupta poetic and with a reference to Tantra Loka, significantly contribute to studying Saivism and its relationship to literary thought. Over the years, Professor Mishra has become a leading figure in studying Kashmir, Saivism, Buddhism, Sanskrit linguistics, and the philosophy of language. His expertise also include comparative poetics, Asian literature, and comparative religion. His impressive body of work include numerous articles, reviews, and influential books such as Buddhist Theory and Meaning and Literary Analysis 1999. He has extensively worked on Saiva philosophy and literary theory. In recognition of his exceptional contribution, Professor Mishra has received prestigious fellowship, including the Otika Memorial Fellowship from the ICCR and Japan Foundation, 1998. He has offered the Professor Henry Sommer Chair at the South Asian Institute, University of Heidelberg, Germany, in 2012. An offer he deferred due to personal family reasons. This accolade highlights his international standing and the global importance of his research. We are greatly fortunate to have Professor Mishra with us from 17 March to 22nd March 2025, where he will be delivering lectures on Madhyamikas and Yogachara, Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, and Dinak, later Buddhist logician Dharmakiti, Sandrakita, and Ratnakiti, language as an epistemology in Bodhadasan, characteristic and Indian literary theories, Buddhist theory of meaning, Buddhist literary criticism, and literary analysis. This lecture will offer a deep dive into Buddhist philosophical tradition, exploring the works of key thinkers like Nagarjuna and Dharmakiti, and examining the interplay between language, epistemology, and meaning in Bodhadasan. We look forward to an intellectually stimulating and enriching experience. We are grateful to Prof. Mishra for generously sharing us with his expertise. On behalf of Nalanda University, I extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to Prof. Mishra. Kumar Mishra, we eagerly anticipate the discussion, idea, and knowledge that will emerge from this series of lectures. Thank you, and I wish all of us a truly transformative learning outcome or learning experience. Thank you.
Am I audible? वागर्थाविव संपृक्तौ वागर्थ प्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ. I am much obliged to be invited here to deliver a series of lectures on Buddhism, particularly with reference to theories of meaning and literary analysis, literary criticism. Well, I have certain plan in my mind how to deliver this, in what successive phases I will be able to deliver it. Initially, I think online mode we have shared 2 lectures, okay. But let's recapitulate a little bit of them and then proceed further. Okay. I'm feeling little awkward when Professor Sarwan Kumar Sharma ji is here, such a learned person. No, sir. And very much thankful to all of you for attending this series of lecture. First of all, we should discuss the background, intellectual background in which such philosophical systems emerged, and they are still continuing. The beauty of the land is that whatever thought process has been initiated in the past, okay, initiated, not necessarily invented by any individual, but there is a tradition of texts and thinkers. So there may be one acharya or great teacher who started expounding these things, and it still continues. Nothing is lost, in fact, nothing is lost. This is the beauty, okay. Whether you agree or not doesn't matter, but that thought process, that stream of thought, that tradition of thought has been maintained till this date. Even there are not many followers of that particular kind of school, but the thought is very much there. I remember Panini has a sutra. Panini, you must know, the great grammarian of 7th century BC. He has a beautiful sutra in his Ashtadhyayi, the very celebrated grammatical treatise, and that is called Adarshanam Lopa. That which is not visible is called Lopa. Lopa, not existing. It is very much there, simply it is not visible. Maybe in hibernation mode. When the time comes, it will start manifesting itself. But at the same time, it is the part of the process, yet not realized, not visualized, not realized, but it is very much there. Okay. So, for example, should I give one or more example? Like in Sanskrit declination, शब्द रूप जैसे होते हैं ना, शब्द रूप, धातु रूप. So you have a word, for example, lata. In the first person, first case, nominative case, and singular number, the form is still lata. But where is the marker to tell you that this is in the nominative case or this is in the singular number? So the marker is there, but it is non-visible. Okay, it is non-visible, but it is still there. It is still there. In many languages, markers are absent. They are not visible, morphologically realized, but they are very much there. Many languages, English, for example, Many such languages are there. Anyway, so that means nothing is lost. Okay? Why it is not lost? Because it has become the part of the tradition. Parampara जिसको हम कहते हैं, parampara. It has become the part of the tradition. So when it is a part of the tradition, it is maintained. Okay? In course of time, you will have new interpretations, reinterpretations of the same thing, because it is very much there, and you will collate the ideas. You can progress further, or so you can re-expound the things which have been stated earlier, and this is a sign of a community that is intellectually vibrant. It is intellectually rich in that sense. So we are discussing this philosophical system, particularly Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy, in a very, very rich cultural and intellectual context. Rich cultural and when we are studying it here in Nalanda, nobody comes here to teach. People come here to learn. This is the land, one of the greatest seats of learning from ancient times, and we all are hoping that this glorious tradition will be restated, not necessarily revived. It is very much there. Again, the concept of lopa, it is there but not visible, only in this sense. So there is a very important few things to be shared with you, that Bauddha darshan, as we know it, it is at the same time dharma, Bauddha dharma, it is Bauddha darshan, Bauddha yoga, it has a yoga tradition also, it has a tantra tradition also, and more importantly, it has a very, very important dimensions of kala, art, Bauddha kala, for example. So perhaps it is the first philosophical system that got institutionalized in the form of sangha, very organized in this way. And then it is also important to know the distinction between dharma and religion, as it is popularly mistranslated. So, and I need not repeat this thing, you might be knowing this distinction, because under religion you cannot include all such dimensions. Dharma, it is dharma, whatever is designated as dharma in this tradition is not opposed to Vijnana, it is not opposed to Tantra, it is not opposed to Adhyatma. Okay? So these all are almost synonymous terms, synonyms, So that is important to note, because most of the time we have got the habit to study these systems from translation. I started with a kind of prayer, Vagartha vivasampriktao Vagartha pratipattaye Jagatah pitaro vande Parvati Parameshwaro. Vak, speech, language has two aspects, Vachak and Vachya. Vachak is just in Sausurian term, call it signifier, and signified Vachya. What happens that there is a relationship between the two. One has no meaning in the absence of the other. Okay? So they are intrinsically related, intrinsically one. There are only the two dimensions, two aspects. Meaning and word are not two distinct things, but they are the facets of the same object work. So Vachaka and Vachya. You know what happened when we try to translate this Vachya, or the conceptual aspect, meaning, is somehow got altered, or to in some cases dislocated also, because language and meaning is a part of the cultural process also, cultural process. So there are dynamics to ascertain or to to find out various dimensions of the meaning of a word, you know. So what happens, and particularly when languages are target and host languages are very distant, culturally distant, then translation would be more difficult. But this has happened because we have undergone a kind of what we call colonial phase. So in that period, what happens generally, this vachya or conceptual aspect is altered, sometimes due to ignorance, sometimes deliberately. So religion became dharma, or many more such things are there. So we are discussing necessarily darshan, and to remind you that nomenclature of the disciplines, name of the disciplines are also not to be translated. ठीक है, जो विधाओं के नाम होते हैं ना, जैसे दर्शन है, इतिहास है, भूगोल है आदि, ये सब जो विधाएं हैं, knowledge disciplines, they are like the proper nouns. If you translate them, you will miss something. The process, the goal, and many more associated issues will be lost or replaced or altered in this process. So darshan is again not to be understood in terms of philosophy. I appreciate philosophy has its own way of inquiry, own way of formulating thoughts or principles, but that is strictly based on logical, rational analysis, this discipline philosophy, and it comes closer to what we call anvikshiki in our tradition, hetu vidya, or let us call theory of causation or so. So rigorous logical analysis, this is anvikshiki in our tradition. Philosophy comes closer to that. Darshan, anvikshiki, okay. This side, that's it. Roman, this side, okay. It is called anvikshiki. Anvikshiki, hetu vidya. It's called hetu. Hetu means cause. Vidya means discipline. I am sure you are familiar with these diacritical marks. Yes. Okay. So anvikshiki or hetu vidya. Darshan is something more than this. It doesn't reject this. Which one? Okay, sorry. Darshan has a wider domain. It doesn't reject this. This is an essential part of it. But Upanishad themselves say, Naisham tarkein matiya parapaniya, that logical, rational analysis cannot ascertain that ultimate principle. It is much beyond that, much more beyond that. Okay. This is the background. I will correlate all these things when we will proceed further. Okay. Particularly with reference to theory of meaning and literary analysis. So, darshan drishyate anen iti, that which is an instrument to see, not to create. Okay. When mind is operational, functional, then we create categories around us. You know, mind has a tendency to process things, to categorize them, to make universals, what we call jati in technical terms, jati, vyakti, all such things. So mind has a specific tendency. Mind is creative. It creates reality for us. The idea is not to see the reality which our mind has created, okay, but to go beyond this and to see as it is whatever is there. Okay. So that's why it is darshana. Drishyate anen. Here, why it is said like this? When we apply our mind or knowing senses and other means of knowledge, the knowledge which we will gain will be relative to the instrument which we have applied there. Okay. So the knowledge of the object, tree for example, when we see it, when we have heard the description of that tree from someone, and when we infer that there might be a tree on the basis of certain signs or so. All these three kinds of constitution of knowledge of that same object will differ, because we have applied three different means to know that object. Okay. So when we have heard about it, when we have actually seen it, when we have touched it, so it will differ. It will be specific to the instrument of knowledge which we have applied. Knowledge has three aspects. What are these? Let's see this in the form of this triangle. This is what we call knower. Knower, means, and knowable. Knowable. Okay. In Sanskrit we call it pramata. Pramata, praman, and prameya. Prameya. Okay. Knowable. Now, with the help of these three, whatever we gain is called valid knowledge. Valid knowledge called prama. I am using the terminology from the Nyaya philosophy, but it holds good here also. So, pramata, the knower, the conscious knower who has a desire to know, and then he or she applies certain means that connects the object. So there is a mediation of pramana between this pramata, knower, and the knowable. So mediation. Now what we are discussing here, that what is the role of this pramana here? It connects the knower with the object knowable. Okay. So the characteristics of pramana, characteristics of the means of knowledge will definitely affect the knowledge of the knowable, because it is intermediate in between. So whether it is pratyaksha or anuman or shabda pramana or athapatti, abhav, etc. Okay, this is not direct. Got this point? That the kind of means of knowledge, in philosophical terminology we call it epistemology, the kind of epistemology will apply is going to color, going to construct, create this object, the knowledge of this object. So that's why right from the beginning there is a huge debate and discussion on the various means of knowledge. Which one is more reliable? Which means of knowledge is more reliable than others? A huge debate. And there was a philosopher, Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, 1st century, who rejected all the means of knowledge, and that's why he is known as Pramana Vidhvansakacharya. Pramana Vidhvansakacharya, who has rejected all the epistemological tools and methods, because it is in fact in any case it is going to mediate, negotiate, अब जरा ज़्यादा political term में, going to negotiate the knowledge of the object. Is this clear? Is this clear? Okay. So darshan, and that's why there are various means of knowledge. There are various knowables, and there are various types of knowers also. Okay, various types of knower. Buddha was also a knower, but see his level and the level of other kind of people. In fact, some philosophical system gives you a kind of successive categorization of the knower also. 7 types of knowers, as it is discussed in Kashmir Shaivism, and also it is generally agreed, Kashmir Shaivism, right? 7 types of knowers. So the kind of knower one is the knowable, the class of knowable will also be determined according to the knower. जैसा प्रमाता होता है उसी तरह से उसका प्रमेय वर्ग बनता है. The kind of knower you are, the knowables are accordingly systematized or categorized or classified. Got the point? So this is important. Idea is not to claim ordinarily the knowledge of absolute reality. One has to be very, very careful when one claims that I know this object. I just one very, very simple exercise we can do here. All of you might have seen picture or this object. Let's see. When I say I know this object, what do I know about it? Can I list exhaustively all the aspects, all the characteristics of this object which is in my hand or picture or anything? Aham ghatam janami. I know this picture. I know the picture. I am ghatah. This is a picture. What do I know? What do I know about it? If we start listing the characteristics, when we say I know this object, you also know this object, how we are going to describe it? It's a substance, for example, it is made of certain substance, one, the action which it performs, anything else? Add on, please.
So the color and the shape.
Color and shape, yes. That is jati, akriti jati. Note it down, that will be helpful. So first substance, second action, we call it artha kriya karitva, action which it performs, writing for example. Okay. Third, yes, jati and what you say, akriti, shape. Okay. Yes.
Purpose of the inventing, creating this.
Purpose, maybe, yes. Why not? Then maybe included, but it is okay, fine. What else? That's all. That's all about its existence.
So it kind of also works as a container to hold the ink inside.
Okay, it has certain capacity to hold ink. Okay, right? That's all. What about its time and space? Time and space also. It is located here in a specific time and space. And is it, yeah?
It has to decay in the lifetime.
It will decay, right? Because it has an origin, and it has been created that in course of time it has a tendency to decay also, right? So technically we call it 6 stages of modification, Shadabhava Vikara. Every object that has been created will pass through successive 6 phases, from origin to decay. So this is also a part of that. Okay. Avastha Parivartan, what we call it, change in the state. Change in the state. Anything else? Is it independent or it is a part of this context or what we call reality around it? Now you are entering in a danger zone. So knowing this perfectly, you are also claiming that I know the cosmos, the cosmic reality, the ultimate reality. So one has to be very, very careful while claiming that I know this object. We know it for practical reasons, okay, but not ontologically perfectly, because the means which we have applied will also and there are many questions may be asked. Which one is more real, the individual form or the class form, jati, vyakti or jati, individual, substance or class property? Which one is real? in comparison to with these two, which one is real, class or individual? How did you recognize that this is a pen? Which comes first, class or individual? So these are the issues involved, highly philosophical, and this is part of our knowledge, individual, jati, vyakti, akriti, etc., all such things. So the idea is that we cannot claim that I know something in absolute terms. So this quest of the real is still goes on, it continues, and that's why the very beautiful expression is neti neti. Neti neti. Not this. There is something more to record. We are not rejecting whatever is recorded, but there is much more to know. Okay, so it keeps on, and this is the characteristics of India's intellectual tradition. It's a perennial quest of the self, not the others, not outside, but the idea is to know this knower. Who is this? Who is claiming that I know? This I is very, very important for us. So Buddha also says, Atma Deepo Bhava. Be your own light, and knowing one's own self is the primal quest of our knowledge tradition, because everything is determined by this, rest of the things. So that's why in this sense this tradition is called Adhyatmik. Adhyatmik. Adhyatma, relating to one's own self. Other cultures might be having different reference for their departure, but here is the Atma Tattva, self. Who is this self? Who is this real self? Who is the ultimate self, universal self? This is the question. And all our shastras, all our knowledge disciplines, philosophical systems, 64 art forms, 18 vidyas, they all emerged in this process of perennial quest of the self. जितने भी 64 art forms हैं, more than that. Sometimes in Lalit Vistar example, for example, Lalit Vistar is a Buddhist take, Mahayana Buddhism. They list more than 64 art forms, So all these are very, very important, and these are the various forms and modes of exploration of the self. We are trying to answer this single question: who am I? Simply, who am I? This is the perennial quest, and all such expressions, all such vidyas, experiments, whatever is there. Sometimes when you see apparently that the art form is very, very gross, sthula, very gross, even there you will find that such quest is embedded into those kind of things. For example, musician through swara, through musical notes, it's an expression of the self as well as the quest of the self. Okay, so through these expressions we also try to come back to the source. I am speaking. Okay, you hear this voice. Now this voice which is falling into your ears, if you try to analyze who is speaking, from which source it is coming out. Okay, when we start exploring in this way, we will come back to our own self. Technically there are 4 levels of vak. So this is manifest vak, audible vak, speech, and then prior to that and before we speak, lots of things have happened, undergone in our mind. Okay? And where it is rooted in our consciousness. The self itself is the source of this speech. So in this way you can think of other art forms, other knowledge disciplines like that. So the idea is that we are essentially discussing a knowledge tradition in which all such philosophical systems have emerged. Okay. Now, why we call, you might have heard there are certain misconceptions regarding Buddhism, and it has been deliberately created from a dharma darshan to a political ideology. This is the whole process. You know, this is the progression of Buddhism, what we see in our time. But there are many more things and lots of misinterpretations. We need to understand first that Buddhism is Buddhism expounds no soul theory, anatmavad. Anatmavad. Don't take it seriously, soul. Anatmavad, without Atman. So it doesn't permit the concept of Atman, that there is an eternal, perennial being within us. This is again half truth. Okay, half truth. That Buddhism accepts this, but not at the ontological level, but at the level of, you know, what we call samvriti satya, samvritik satya, pragmatic level. Why it is so? Because in earlier lecture, I think we have talked about it. Panchaskandha, you know, Panchaskandha theory, the combination of 5 elements, extended form of Nam and Rupa, in online lecture. Do I need to repeat those things? Please refer to, because it is recorded also. Panchaskandha will take up in course of time also. So this is a kind of combination of these 5 skandhas, and we name it as Atman. This is Buddhist interpretation. This is how Buddhist texts interpret it. So they are not rejecting Atman, but they are simply saying that these are the 5 elements, panchaskandhas, and collectively it is known as Atman. Panchaskandha, a set of 5 elements known as Atman. Second, no God theory, that it rejects God. Again, this is problematic, because you will see that many gods and goddesses are the part of this system, particularly when you enter into the domain of Vajrayan, Sahajayan, etc. You will see that all goddesses and gods are very much there. Vajrayan is again misinterpreted that this promotes black magic and many more such things. No, it is not like that. It was a kind of expansion of the same principle, same basic principle, that doesn't see any difference, any dichotomy, opposition between form and formless, between saguna and nirguna, with attribute and without attribute. Okay? All are accepted. So this is again no God theory. As for example, you have Tara, very famous, Avalokiteshwara, Manjushri, etc. All these acquired the form of godhood. Now, third misconception is that it rejects the authority of Veda. First of all, this is not our issue. Authority is not our question, not our question or issues, that whether we are giving some objects or identifying some object as authority or not. This is not the part of our culture. It is imposed. Veda never has been accepted as an authority. Okay, authority, you know, authority. It is a part of that tradition which has the concept of holy book. Okay, holy book. At the core of the civilization, there is a concept of holy book, and book cannot be without author. And whose meaning will prevail? The author's meaning will prevail. an author has an authority to exercise over the semantics, what we were expressing as vachya, conceptual framework of that object. So this is not simply our concern, but what is there, if Ved is an authority, you will not having multiple interpretations, you know. Some philosophical system accept it as a verbal testimony, it's a part of their epistemological framework, some do not, okay. But they say that there are other means of knowledge as well. Ved is known as drishta jnana, drishta, seen. It literally means drishtam sama. This is a sutra of Panini, drishta jnana. And remember, we were arguing that we want to know reality as it is, not intermediated by pramanas, So direct perception, something like this, direct. So drishta jnana, and that's why rishis are known as drashta. One who is capable of seeing it, not creating it. Did you mark the difference between seeing and constructing? When we are applying this model, we are in fact constructing reality for us, okay, through these means of knowledge, through active participation of the knower. Here the role of the knower is only a seer, not a creator. This is the difference. So Ved is said that kind of knowledge which cannot be obtained or grasped by any or various means of knowledge, pratyaksha, anuman, etc. That which cannot ascertain, that kind of knowledge is Veda. Veda literally means what? Knowledge. Vid jnane, vid vicharane, etc. All these etymologies are there. So knowledge, it's a knowledge text, and you can always question it, you can always try to understand it, and that's why multiple thought systems emerged. So there is no question of authority of the Veda. It is simply there. Those who have seen it, they have recorded it. But when we are approaching the Vedas, we are not in their position of those rishis or those seers. We are facing the barrier of language, the language which is applied there in the Veda. Okay, for us it became the Shabda Pramana, verbal testimony. Got this idea? Rishis have seen them. When we are approaching, we are having the words between. Okay, words. Veda is also composed in a language. It is mantras are, of course, they cannot transcend the issues of language. Language is very much applied there. So our understanding of the Veda is through the language which is in between, that knowledge and the knower. That language barrier is there, or curtain is there. So this depends on us, what kind of knower we are, at what level we are, and accordingly we will be able to understand or know that. So there is a issue like that. So rishis and this drishta jnana and drashta, etc., all such things are there. So there is no question of authority. Is that clear? Even Buddha himself says that I am no authority there. Atma Deepo Bhava. When he says like this, he is rejecting this notion, no, that there is someone who is authoritative. Like, be your own light, explore your own self. Only then whatever you will grasp, that will be reliable, or that knowledge itself leads you to higher level. So that is important. And then third is, of course, third or fourth, I don't know. It is a Nastik darshan, Nastika. Nastik darshan. What is the meaning of Nastik? Sir, what a thought. You see, the same question came up. Huh? As there was no issue of authoritativeness, this meaning itself is rejected. Authority. Ved is no authority. Please keep it in mind. Okay? It's not an authoritative text. It's not an authoritative text at all. Okay, next meaning of Nastika? Non-believer. In what? Again Ved. Is it a crime if you don't believe in Veda? Nobody has said like this. Don't believe. You believe in certain other things or don't believe at all. Huh? Who is going to stop? Okay. So non-believing. Okay. Believing, non-believing, this is a typical Semitic dichotomy. Belief in God, in Holy Book, in Prophet, like this. So there is one system. This is not the part of that. Okay. And what else about Nastika? Atheist. Who is called atheist? Again believe. See this. So the terminology doesn't fit into the kind of framework which we are discussing. This is very important to start afresh. Giving up all such associated, deeply sedimented misconceptions. Otherwise, we will not be able to understand anything what they are saying. Got the idea? We are not discussing a belief system. We are discussing a knowledge system, where everything has to be analyzed. It has come to under this very, very strict scrutiny. Okay? Only then whatever is established, that is accepted. Got this point? Now, okay, we'll take up some other issues. So, Nastika, I just a few minutes ago I was talking about altering the signifieds, altering the meaning in course of translation, or when the other what we call cultures dominates us. What they try to control these signifieds. They try to control, alter, and reshape those signifieds meaning. And this happens in everywhere. This happens where one culture is dominated by another. The dominant culture will try to disseminate or shape the meaning, because meaning associated with our conceptual process, thought process. So in a way they are trying to control this thought process. They do it, otherwise they cannot rule the or continue their domination. Okay, so this happens. Theist and atheist has been very comfortably established in contemporary India's intellectual discourse as a translation of what? Astik and Nastik. So theist means Astika and atheist means Nastika. I have been asking, you open any book on Indian philosophy, people will tell you, scholars will tell you that Indian philosophy is divided into two parts, two classes, Astik Darshan and Nastik Darshan. This is the beginning. Here itself is a wrong departure, one can say. This is a very problematic classification. Our acharyas, believe me, in our tradition, no acharya, no scholar has categorized Indian philosophy like this. This is a colonial intervention, a scholarship of the colonial period, and our own scholars are not behind them. Okay, our own scholars also started reiterating these categories. Okay, so for example, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, S. N. Das Gupta, take any book written in English on Indian philosophy, they will tell you. and the same is copied, imitated by the Indian scholars. I mean those scholars who are writing in Indian languages, including Sanskrit in modern times, including, thank you sir, okay, including Sanskrit scholars. So this is again, no Buddhist acharya calls himself or herself as a Nastik acharya, Nastik exponent or so. This is again need to be taken care of. And then it is said that Mahatma Buddha, sir, yes sir, yes sir. We have here, I should not dare to speak in front of him. Sir. No, sir. It's my privilege, sir. It's an honor. So, in fact, when Mahatma Buddha was in Shravasti Jetavan, then there was a scholar called Malukyaputta, who asked 10 questions, okay, and relating to very, ontology and Atman, and when this world started and when it will cease to exist, like this, such 10 questions have been asked. In response to that, Buddha, like a wise person, maintained silence, and this is what we call, if you go through Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha, or also in Milind Paihum, there are categories of questions, 4 categories. I have already discussed this in previous lecture, so I will not repeat. The last type of question is called Avyakrita. This is also in Upanishad also. Avyakrita Sthapaniya Koti Prashna. These questions fall into this category, Sthapaniya, and the best answer, because if you try to answer, there will be an opponent's view. Automatically it will emerge, opponent's view will automatically emerge, and you are be trapped in a kind of Vitanda and Jalpa and all such things. Now, the best way to answer is to maintain silence, because this is to be known through one's own experience. One has to experience one's own self. So, unless this is achieved, no data or no response or all such records are not going to help. Buddha maintained silence, and this was revealed. At that time, it was a kind of rumor that he is falsely claiming that he is Buddha, enlightened person. In fact, he doesn't know, but after 200 years, this was revealed, this was expounded, that when you ask a question, this is the culture that tells you, that teaches you how to frame questions, significant question. कुछ भी प्रश्न नहीं हो सकता है. When you ask anything, cannot be a question. The moment you ask a question, accordingly its response is also framed, structured. So this is the importance is given to the person who is asking question. Ask question like this: Kasminno bhagavo vigyate sarvamidam vigyatam bhavati. What is that knowledge? Or what is that object knowing which everything else is known? Everything else is known. This is in Mundak Upanishad, and the dialogue goes on between Saunak and Angiras, right? These two rishis, Saunaka and Angiras. Saunak and Angiras. Very fundamental question he is asking. What is that knowing which everything else is known? How simply and how profoundly it has been put forth. Similar kind of question is between Narad and Sanat Kumar in Upanishad. So he says that Bhagavan, I have known all these 14 knowledge disciplines, and I have heard that those who knew them, they transcend the suffering, but I am still having that kind of a state of suffering. So please preach me. Huh? And then he says, the Guru says, or the other Rishi says, that you have no, first he says that what you have learned just enumerate, and then Narada enumerates all these 14 knowledge disciplines, and then it is very remarkable observation. He says, the Guru says, or the other Rishi says, Sanat Kumar, that you have known them only through words. You are a Shabdavit, you are a Mantravit, you are not an Atmavit. No? An Atmavit. You are not the knower of the self. You have known only the words. You have known only the words. So this kind of intellectual context in which we are discussing all such issues which are involved. And here also in Mundaka Upanishad, when this question is put forth, Kasminno Bhagavo Vigyate Sarvamidam Vigyatam Bhavati. And the answer is not very straight. The other Rishi, Angira, says, he doesn't say that I know everything and I will tell you that what is that object. He says, Dve Vidde Veditadve. There are two knowledge disciplines, if we loosely translate them. Knowledge disciplines. Yad Brahma Vido Vadanti. This is important. As it is stated by those rishis, those seers who have experienced this, the ultimate self, they have stated that there are two knowledge disciplines, para chaiva paracha. One is para and another is apara. Apara is a shastra. Apara, paravidya and aparavidya. Aparavidya, right? Paravidya and I am saving time. 5 minutes more. Huh? Okay. So we'll leave some time for discussion. Till what time I am supposed to? 12 is already crossed. Huh? Sorry. So, then after, sure. Wonderful. So, para and apara. Apara is Shastra. All Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, Atharvaved and all Vedangas, all Shastras are included under this. Whether a Shastra is Paurusheya or Apaurusheya, contingent or non-contingent. All knowledge disciplines are under here, under this Apara Vidya, right? So, this tradition doesn't prohibits you or anyone to raise questions. Shastra is all about it. You put forth your doubt, your desire to know, and together such discussion will take place. So this is Aparavidya. And then Paravidya, no Shastra. There is no Shastra here. The role of Shastra is to initiate us towards this. Otherwise, Shastra will be an obstacle. If the Shastra knowledge text doesn't moves us towards this level of experience, this is the level of experience, experiential. Akshar Tattva, that which is non-destructible, that is known. Our culture is the culture of Shastra and Sadhana. Shastra and Sadhana. Sadhana, Shastra, all knowledge disciplines here, all knowledge discipline, and that it culminates into this experience. That is the process of yoga, samadhi, etc., all such things. So in the beginning I just told you that Buddhism has various dimensions. This is a dimension of yoga also. Okay? Dimension of yoga. So whatever we have learnt here, what we have discussed here, intellectually debated and all such things, and ultimately it has to be understood or experienced at the level of sadhana. So Dve vidye veditavye yada brahmavido vadanti, that the great seers have told like this, that there are two knowledge disciplines, one is para and another is apara. So these both are to be known. Dve vidye veditavye, both are to be known. There is no hierarchy, both are to be known, because there is a kind of intrinsic relationship between the two. When our mind is not stable, when we are still doubtful, have many doubts, many queries and all such things, we are not fit into entering into the domain of what we call sadhana. Mind has to be stable. No? Mind has to be stable. All our rational queries have been answered, satisfactorily. That is very, very important. Otherwise, with a doubtful mind, we cannot enter into the domain of this sadhana. Got this point? So, the role of all these texts, intellectual texts, are very, very significant in this process when we try to contextualize like this. So, and what we call, when we enter into this domain, we call it diksha. Diksha. Initiation, loosely translated, diksha. 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 So one spiritually realized person may be able to initiate us into this domain. And there you will not find any opponent's view, any scope for intellectual discussion or so. It is all gone. It is only up to here, Shastra, which is very important. But once we are established, once our mind is stable, now all answer queries have been settled, then we are now stable and we can move into the another level. And third is, I don't know the series, again I missed that link. Another is Dharma Chakra Pravartana. Dharma Chakra Pravartana. Dharma Chakra Pravartana. It's long. Dharma Chakra Pravartana. It is misarticulated sometimes. I have heard many times. They understood it as Parivartan. Pravartan is not Parivartan. Pravartan is setting the Dharma Chakra, rotating, and this is what our great acharyas have done in the tradition. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirabhavata bharata, etc. All are the multiple interpreters, multiple exponents. They, time to time, when they find it that meaning of dharma is obstructed somewhere, then they come and then they set this Dharma Chakra, the wheel of dharma, rotating. Buddha is one of them. And if you believe in the Buddhist texts, Buddhist canonical texts, Mahatma Buddha was the 24th Buddha, not the first. This is in Lalit Vistar. The text is Lalit Vistar. Before him there were 23 Buddhas. And what is the role of these both? There are notions, two concepts, Bodhisattva and Buddha. So Bodhisattva is that one who has the potential, Sattva of Bodhi means Gyan, knowledge. So one that has the potential to be a Buddha. But Mahayana texts, again this problematic classification, Hinayan, Mahayana. Mahayana is fine, but why to call Hinayan? They were Sthaviras, they were called Sthavir traditionally. Mahasangik and Sthavir, these were the two basic classifications. So here they say that Dharma Chakra Pravartan simply means that setting the wheel of dharma rotating, it's a continuous process, it goes on, because dharma is always Sanatan. There may be nothing like Sanatan Dharma, but what we call Dharma, it has to be essentially Sanatan. Has to be essentially Sanatan. It is not initiated, started, it's not a part of startup project, startup project. So it is there, right? And that's why Bodhisattvas are the potential Buddhas. And what happens in Mahayana, he takes a vow, says that I will not liberate myself, I will not claim liberation, though he is capable of. I will not claim liberation, emancipation, till the last person is liberated. Okay? So out of compassion, let us say, he is taking this vow, making this a statement, and this is how it goes on. So Buddha, in fact, enlightened, and it is said that previously also there were 23rd such Buddhas who time to time came and performed this Dharma Chakra Parvartan, where in Sarnath itself there is a lake pond. When Buddha, after getting enlightenment, after getting some bodhi, he went there in Sarnath, and the beautiful description in Lalit Vistar, that a throne embedded with ratna and all jewels and all, it was a divine throne. It emerged out of that lake. Buddha sat on it and then did this Dharma Chakra Parvartan, and then when he completed, the throne went back to the same substratum. This is how it goes on. So the idea is not to associate anything and visualize it authoritative. So it's a continuous process. In Jayanta Bhatta sir, Kuto va nutanam vastu. So Prakshatam Sama. So there is nothing new which they are expounding. They are saying that in different terminology, in different phrases. I am just expounding. A great Nayayika, Jayanta Bhatt from Kashmir, he is saying this, that there is nothing new in our exposition. We are simply reiterating, re-expounding the same thing which have been coming down in the tradition. So there is no claim of originality, there is no claim of authoritativeness. This is the beauty of the tradition. So once we associate Mahabharata, for example, is also like that. It doesn't ask us to question it. The text is for learning. Learn from such great texts. So this is how it goes on. And so Dharma Chakra Pravartan. And the final misconception is that Buddha rejected or opposed the language called Sanskrit. The language called Sanskrit. Nowhere. In Chulavagga, there is a description when two brahmacharis, they approached Buddha and asked him that should we rewrite your preachings in Chandas? Buddha says no. No. And then he says, use a word which is maybe very pertinent today also, Sakaya Niruttiya. Sakaya Niruttiya. Sakaya Niruttiya. This is in Chulavagga. Sakaya Niruttiya. One's own language. What does that mean? That whichever language or dialect or form of a speech you are using, let it be there in that form. Okay? He is confident. Why? Because the intellectual vocabulary is the shared vocabulary. Nothing is going to be lost. It is you are not translating literally. you are a set of languages or dialects are there. The vocabulary, conceptual vocabulary, is same. So you are not going to lose anything. You will be using the same word, atma, anatma, or whatever, dharma, dharma, papa, punya, etc. So there is a shared vocabulary. Why? Because there is a shared consciousness also behind that. Okay, chaitanya ka ekatma bhi hai, chaitanya ka oneness, you know. So he is confident and he is saying that let them compose, let them discuss the language which they speak, and he is not opposed to what we call chandas or language of the Veda. And I don't know whether you agree or not, each language is a metrical form. Every language has a meter, its own meter. I am saying the name, we designate language by a certain name. These are in fact the names of meters. Each language has its own layer, yati and gati. The way you speak Sanskrit or English, you don't speak other language. So there is a very inherent, intrinsic pattern, rhythmic, you know. So this is important, and overtly we call it metrical composition or Chanda Shastra or so. Every language has its own form. That's why meters are not to be translated. They cannot be translated. Meters cannot be translated from one language to another. So here I am reminded of a very beautiful event, sir. I think I should share. This Pandit Madhusudan Ojha ji, and his teacher was Madhusudan Ojha ji. His student was Motilal Shastri ji. So Pandit Madhusudan Ojha ji, this was narrated by his direct disciple, you know. So that's why I think this may be authentic. His disciple Motilal Shastri ji used to teach a person whom I happen to know, Rishi Kumar Mishra ji. So once he said that my guru said that I will teach you Veda, but there is one, you know, condition. One condition. What is that? That whatever I will teach you, you have to rewrite into English. Okay, and you have to show it to me. Then he laughed at him that, Guruji, you don't know anything except Sanskrit. So why should I do this? You won't be able to find out faults and you may not be able to correct it. Then he says, and he said that, okay, you do your work, whatever I have told you. So next day he rewrite everything and then went back to his guru to show him that, Guruji, I have written. Guruji said that I can't read this Roman script and all such things. You read it out aloud, read it aloud. And he started reading it, and then he stopped him that here something is missing. In another place he says that this word is not appropriate here, just change it. Why? How he was doing it? Because the rhythm of the language is disturbed. Rhythm of the language is disturbed. I mean, when the rhythm of that language is disturbed, it is an indication your thought process is also disturbed. Okay, you are not thinking consistently. So there is a very subtle thing, no, one has to experience. So language is intrinsically a chanda. भाषा छंद है ना. तो ये थोड़ा अभ्यास भी करना पड़ता है. You have to practice, you have to look into it. Right. So Buddha is not opposed to Sanskrit, and later Buddhist texts, philosophical texts, most of them are written in Sanskrit, and very profound Sanskrit. Pramana Vartik, for example. So they are not opposed to. So give up all these misconceptions, and then we'll be able to see Buddhism in the proper context, right? And then these days, I should not say anything. These days Buddhism has become a political ideology. I should not say, I should maintain, like a wise person, maintain silence on it. Okay? This is up to you, okay, how to interpret it. whether anti-Semitic or pro-Semitic, anti-Hindu or pro-Semitic, or whatever ways, lots of things are there before you. Now, I will take one more thing and then I will stop today for discussion. We were talking about the knowledge which is not constructed, a knowledge as it is, the object of that, the ultimate object to be known as it is, not to be constructed by these various things, you know. So, there is a beautiful expression in Upanishad, that is Kathopanishad, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhya. This self, the real self, cannot be obtained through discourse or through preaching. It's not a subject matter of that. Na medhya, not by your intellect, and not by various, discourses or shruten. Yamay Vaisha, this is important. Yamay Vaisha Vrinute Tena Labhya. This Atma is known by that person only whom it selects. आत्मा जिसको चुनता है उसी पर अपना रहस्य उद्घाटित करता है, ये हमारे ऊपर निर्भर नहीं करता. This knowledge of the self doesn't depend on us. Okay, whom it selects, it manifests its real nature or real form to that person only. Okay, Yasyaiva Atma Vibhrunate Tanushvam. And Patanjali in his Mahabhashya also quoted, though in a different context, Uta tvaha pashyan dadarsha vacham uta tvaha srinvan srinot yenam utau tvasme tattvam vivastre jayeva patya ushati svasa. This he has interpreted it in the context of grammar, Vyakarana, but this is again the statement of the same thing, that this self manifests itself to whom it wants to manifest, not to anyone. Okay, so this is our whole effort to be a kind of competent person, a knower, competent knower, so that the things may be available to us. We are not there to create knowledge, we are there to see it as it is. Hiranyamayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukham, etc. all in Upanishad, that the Rishi is praying that, O Supreme Self, your face is hidden by this golden disc. Please remove this golden disc. Maybe he is referring to sun, God's sun, that so that I can see you. I can see you. All such things are there. So the idea is that logic, rationality has its role, but to certain extent. Okay, there is much beyond this, and who else is going to challenge better than Nagarjuna himself? That your mind has only 4 ways to think. There are only 4 ways one can structure reality or think. Asti, Nasti, Tadubhaya, Nobhaya. Asti, there is something, Asti plus Nasti, Na Asti, minus, okay, both, Ubhaya, sorry, Ubhaya, both, and Nobhaya, rejecting both. So we can, if we leave everything to our mind only, mind will present reality like this. Okay, Asti, Nasti, Tadu Ubhaya, and Nobhaya, both. So if we say that reality is only this, what our mind has presented to us, or reality is something beyond the a level of mind, and there are some other means, some other ways to know that reality. We have quite comfortable position. We may stop it here or we may go beyond it. This is up to us. Okay. So this is what we have created by applying our knowing senses, mind, etc. That is the constructed, created world. Buddhist philosophy, in Buddhism, we call it Samvritik Satya. Samvritik Satya. How to translate? Phenomenal world, something like that. Empirical world, phenomenal world, something like this. And that which is beyond this is what we call Paramarthik. Not empirical, maybe translate it as phenomenal or so transcendental. When it transcends this mind, because we have created this world for us, and not only created, we have imposed this world on this reality. That is another tragedy. This is another tragedy. You have created it, is fine, but don't impose it, and we have done that also. And what happens? Reality is veiled in that sense. Reality is veiled. We think the world in a different way. The world appears to be full of suffering. Full of suffering. This is the first Arya Satya. First Arya Satya. Sarvam Dukkham, full of suffering. And Shaiva philosophers put it in a different way. That say that sansar has become a poison. The world has become a poison. And that's why Prativigya is needed, Sansar Vishashantaye, just to cure from this kind of poisonous effect or something like that. So this is the background, and I think should we stop here, sir? And then we will take up next time. I have certain plans. I hope it works. Otherwise, when you intervene, I will change it accordingly. Right? Thank you. वो आर्टिकल इनको दे दीजिएगा फोटो हाँ you go through that. It was written some time back, but I think still it is readable. It is readable.
Questions? Anything that you want to ask? Sir, while you were discussing Nastik and this Parapara, you also said that you only know the word, you don't have knowledge of it. So, does reading something in a book and then applying it to your real life not give knowledge of the word, or is it just comprehension through reading?
No, there is no denial. In fact, there is no denial that you cannot apply the knowledge you have gained or through various sources. There is no denial. The idea is not to stop there. You have to go beyond. I ask you, you read a beautiful poem. Read a beautiful poem, for example. अच्छा, जैसे रामायण आपने पढ़ ली. You have gone through Ramayana. Ramayana, of course, I should not say Valmiki Ramayana. Ramayana is just one. And you have experienced it also. One way to study is to know Ras, Chanda, Alankar, etc. All this analytical aspect, that is important. But why we are doing this? We are trying to explain what we have experienced in a theoretical framework, through the framework of Rasa, through Alankar, through other. I mean, this is what our poeticians have done, right? So once we go through that kind of analysis, this helps us to reach that ultimate rasa, that the aesthetic experience which we gain while going through such beautiful works, artwork or literary works or whatever. Ultimately, it becomes inexplicable. You can experience it, but you cannot expound it. We cannot expound it. It's difficult, and that's why Ras at the ultimate level, when the analysis goes on in Abhinav Bharati of Natya Shastra, Abhinav Gupta says that this is ultimately anirvachaniya, similar to, not same, but similar to what we call Brahmanubhuti, experience of the real self, ultimate self. That is also, it can be experienced, but how to explain it in this framework? asti, nasti, tarubhaya, nobhaya. Okay, it is difficult. So each and everything has its role. You know, this is like climbing the steps. You know, one after another. So they have their roles. Nothing is denied. You know? Beauty, I told you in the beginning, we have preserved multiple thought systems. Though we agree or not, that's not important. Important is that we have preserved them together. You know? And so long this goes on, our knowledge traditions will be safe. Hmm?
Let me
Yeah, please.
question. No, sir, when you have mic
Sir. My role is over, sir.
I'll just stand here. There is a part of ठीक है, अच्छे से audible? We think it's audible.
No, it is recording is equally.
Okay. You know, the experience when we have in the philosophy, in this world, or the world which is beyond, that is not an ordinary experience. Because you are not subjective, you are not objective, and you are not neutral. You transcend all three positions, all three states. You are away from the emotional intelligence. When you talk about your, what you call sensitive, insensitive, dull, or concentrated, you away from them. You enter into a meditative state, and that is again that is a trans-conscious state. There are two states: conscious meditative state and trans-conscious meditative state. So you are in a trans-conscious meditative state, so you don't have language. You can narrate, elaborate, make others understand through language. Which language? Samyak Gyan, Samyak language. Sanshaya Gyan. Mithya Gyan, Sadarsh Gyan. Exact knowledge, doubtful knowledge, or mistaken knowledge or mistaken perception, and based on comparison. So all these four kinds of knowledge, four kinds of language, we can explain our emotional intelligence, our emotional experiences, but the experiences which are beyond our emotional intelligence. When we enter into a different world, where we are not subjective, we are not objective, not neutral, we don't have language to explain that experience. So that is why this anniversary.
Sir, is this asmita?
Hmm?
This concentrated.
Asam Prajat. Asam Prajat. Thank you.
Initially mentioned that Ved is a holy book.
Hmm?
So what initially the lecture,
Yeah.
you mentioned that Ved is a holy book.
No, it's not holy.
Sir, in
It's a Western concept. Holy book is like the Holy Bible, Holy Quran. This is.
yes,
Huh.
so what are the parameters under which we consider a book as a holy book? And following that, how we can consider anything which could be a holy book for Sanatana Dharma or any-
There is nothing like the concept of holy book, at least so far I know in Sanatan. Okay, we have Veda, and Veda is not necessarily, or not at all, a holy book. Holy has a very, very important, different connotation. If it is a book, okay, then it is written, composed by a perfect being, and who is more perfect than God Himself? Okay, so it's coming from that source, coming from God with capital G. Don't translate it as Ishwar, Bhagwan, or whatever. God is a proper noun. In Anglo-Saxon grammar, it's a proper noun. So no translation will be appropriate, right? So coming from that source, that's why a community believes that it is holy in this sense, that is, it is perfect like God. You know, God is not visible, but His words are there in this holy book, and that has to be equally given importance or prestige. Second thing is that it is non-questionable. It cannot question. Whatever is there, it has to be accepted. Okay, There is nothing to be, pondering or rejecting or accepting. This is beyond that. This is the notion. Maybe sir will say something. He will enlighten you more. Okay.